am Marion. That is Joe. Welcome to I Am a Podcast Pro. Tonight's topic, what we want to help you with, what we want to share, what we want to delve into, because so many people are entering into the podcast space. So many people are being interviewed for the things that they do, including being the host of a podcast. So we just want to make sure we come and talk to the person, to encourage the person. It's great. You need camera, you need light, you need action. But guess what? All of that is in the palm of your hand, in your phone. So what we're going to do is talk to the person and how you actually host, how you actually interview, how you have that exchange, how you make people want to listen to what you have to say. So tonight's topic is about the art of cultivating a great conversation when just talking is not enough. Because if you don't know, there is an extremely impactful difference between talking and having a conversation. What do you have to say about that, Joe?
So when it comes down to talking versus conversation, anybody can just talk. Anybody can just kind of just run off at the mouth. And it's not always that it's just running off at the mouth. But a lot of times, especially when we're talking about the difference between podcasting, when you're talking about podcasting, you have a lot of instances where people just go. They get so excited. Like, ooh, I'm on a podcast. Ooh, I got a camera on. Oh, I got a hot mic. I'm ready to go. And it's like, okay, slow down. You have to understand that you are not the only person that is a part of this whole experience. So when you're talking, a lot of times you're just really letting sound come out of your mouth. But you're not necessarily cognizant of the fact that you are a part of something with someone else.
You're a part of something with someone else. So that a part with something with someone else would be the conversation?
Exactly.
Okay, so for me, defining the word talking, I would say, of course, we're talking. Right now we're talking. But it's beyond small talk. It's beyond that surface chit chat. You know, it's beyond being just trivial. You know how you walk up to somebody, you just say, hey, it's been hot, hasn't it? Yes, no. Really hot? Nah, I'm good. This my season. But you really don't get to the depths of anything. Where in a conversation, you strive to have that deeper, more meaningful dialogue with someone that, it yields much more information so that when you walk away, when I talk like that, when I what I just gave, the whole thing about the weather, and you're asking about the weather, and it's really just light chit chat. When I walk away, I don't know any more about you. I don't know any more about what you do. I don't know. So I'm just talking about just in general in life. I don't know anything of substance. But when you have a conversation, totally different. I'm going to walk away with something of substance. I'm going to walk away with something memorable about you, about you, what you do, what you like, what you don't like, something. It's just going to give more to it. So even with that same question of, wow, the weather, it's really hot. And it's like, no, you meet this person and you're on the way to the gym. So you're going to ask, what, it's really hot out here. Like extremely hot. How is this affecting you in doing your workouts with it being so hot? Like, are you still dedicated to doing the thing that actually makes you sweat with all of the heat that's going on out here? Because it's summertime. This is why I'm using this as a reference. And it is extremely hot right now. So that's why I'm using that reference. And it's going to yield the person giving you more of them, more in depth. So how do you define talking, conversation?
If we're just defining talking, I actually fall right in line with your definition of it, because I feel like it's a very basic level of, like I said, letting sound fall out of your mouth. A lot of times it's not necessarily, it doesn't have a direction. A lot of times it could just be something like that just comes to mind, but there's no real depth to it. There's no rhyme or reason. It's just kind of sort of to fill the air with sound. That's it.
Kind of sort of to fill the air with sound. So in talking about conversation, the reason we're talking about this and being in a podcast, being a host of a podcast, how important is it to you to make sure that that fine line is defined?
It's important because you have to look at being, especially, I'm not going to say especially, whether you're a guest or whether you're a host, you have to understand that you're in a setting that requires you to interact with someone else. And if you're just talking and you never make the room for the other person to exist in that space, then if you're a host, you kind of sort of feel like, well, you know, hey, they could have just did their own thing, you know, like just went live and just told their story or whatever, without the mystery behind it. Like the beauty of a podcast, like if you're a host and if you're a guest coming on somebody's show, is that you never know what somebody's going to ask you. You never know where that conversation is going to go. So if you're talking the entire time and you don't give them room to ask a follow-up, you don't give them room to feed off of what you're saying, then it's like you really eliminate that person from the conversation. Versus a conversation is really understanding that it's like, okay, I'm a guest on somebody's show. Even though I am the featured act, so to say, I still have to understand that they are a part of this conversation too, because they are the conductor of this conversation. This is their platform. I'm a guest on their platform. And if you're the host dealing with a guest and you are doing most of the talking as the host, then you are not doing your due diligence as a host to make them feel welcome to be on your platform. Because they have to want to have to open up to you. And if they feel like you're doing all the talking, it's like, you know, why am I here?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's that back and forth. It's almost like a sway. It's a dance, a rhythm that you get into with that other person, where you understand what they're bringing to the table. They understand what you're bringing to the table, and it's a synergy that goes together with it.
If you're in an interview and you're the host, how do you interject into someone who's just going?
It's tough because you have to, this is when finesse comes into play. Because you have to find that sweet spot where you want to hold on to whatever it is that the thought that they have, but at the same time you have to rein it in because it's your platform. And so it's always about doing it in a classy way. Whether, I don't really like to use the term aggressive, but sometimes you do have to get a little aggressive because, again, it is your platform. So you have to stop the person politely and say, hey, I love where we're going with this conversation. Let's focus on this point right here. Let me ask you about this. So that way it kind of reins them back in so that they understand it's like, okay, I'm going. let me slow down. You know, I've had situations like that where I've had people on my, previous podcast where they did a lot of talking or a lot of minutes straight. And after a while, especially if I was on a time constraint and I had, say, like another guest coming on, when I had my radio show, I had multiple guests. A lot of times I have to rein that first guest in and say, okay, cool. That's awesome. Let's get into this right here. And it's a way to feed off of what they're already saying. But at the same time, it's a way to kind of sort of just pull them back just a bit, because it's like, okay, we don't want this thing to go off the rails.
Yeah. Yeah. I really love that you said you never know. You never know what someone's going to ask you. Now, I personally don't send out questions. I'm not against anyone sending out questions, but it's just the way my mind works. And no guest has, to date, asked for that. If it was something that was asked for and I needed to, I would send it out with the understanding that things can pivot, things can change. You say something that I think, wow, this is something to explore. This is something to unveil. Or you actually say something and I'm like, wait, if you went to from point A to point C, what happened to B? You never said anything, but I realized that. And so I want to ask that question of something you didn't say, but I think it's like a missing component in what you just said. That's the part of you never know what's going to be asked. So you can get a list of questions. I would hope that the host is savvy enough to know where to venture off paths and go and find the, explore that unexplored territory, peel back that onion in areas where you just weren't even sharing. But what do you think about, so for me, talking is where it starts. So I'm not saying, I don't think we're saying don't talk, but I think in that pre-conversation, that's where you and the person can get comfortable. That's where y'all can get the rhythm. That's where y'all can get the flow. That's where you can get the ideas on what you're speaking on. With that person. That's where those nuggets start to peek through and you're like, oh, really? This? Okay, let me take note of that. Oh, and that, okay, let me take note of that. So I use talking. So I do use talking, but I use it in the pre. So that by the time we get to the show, there is an outline that's very, very flexible to what's going on, but there is an outline. Every episode does have a goal. But let me tell you something. If something greater reveals itself, I'm running for it.
Exactly.
In that moment, if something greater reveals itself, I'm going to go to that. Because if you think about it, that person always talks about that topic.
That's right.
So to find something interesting in something that they say and building on that and pulling that out of them. So I use talking, that pre-conversation for us to get comfortable, to get that information. And so when we come on the actual episode, show, platform, whatever engagement, whatever that experience is, we're already comfortable. We're kind of just picking up where we were, and it's a nice little smooth ride into they don't mind revealing the intimate details of what they're there to talk about, because you've already had that little flirting at the beginning, that little, let me get to know you. You know them. They know you. They already know everything's cool. So that's where I use talking to pivot into a conversation. So I definitely think it's needed, because you wouldn't walk up to somebody and just go, hey, where you work? What you do? People are skeptical. Like, why are you asking so much? And then even more intimate or more detailed questions, people are really hesitant to just, which for me as a female, I'm just telling you, don't just answer every question somebody's asking you.
Right.
You know, you got to know the motive behind things. And so that's where that motive gets revealed, is in the talking. How about for you?
Yeah. So, like you said, the talking is the warm up. This is the get to know you phase. Kind of like when you first meet somebody for the first time. Like, it's always like that awkward kind of phase. Like, okay, I don't really know you like that, and I'm trying to feel you out. So it's like, okay, what's your vibe? Like, it's really a vibe check. That's what the talking part of it is. Once you fill out that person and get their vibe, then it's like, okay, I can approach you the same way that I would approach my guest from last week. Or I'm not going to approach my guest from last week the same way that I'm going to approach the person 3 weeks from them. You have to read every single person differently before you go forward with, like, okay, how am I going to ask these questions? How am I going to let them roll out? Are they the type of person that's more talkative? Are they the type of person that's not as talkative? What kind of questions can I ask that's going to bring more out of them? That's going to, like, it's to your point, the interest part, like getting to understand their interests. Because, like, yeah, you can bring somebody on, you can read their bio, you can see all these different things, but it's that pregame when you're talking to them that is like, okay, I can feed off of that. Let me bring that somewhere in the midst of this conversation, So, because the bottom line is, like, once you get to the game, so to say, the conversation part, that's where, like, all of the things that you've been reading when it comes to that person through the talking, then it's like, that's when the flow can come into play. Because now it's like camera action. Now it's like, okay, you're listening to this person, you're feeding off of this person. It's like, okay, I like where this conversation is going. Let me key in on this point. And then it opens them up. And then they might have another point. And then it's like, oh, let me key in on that one. It's all a matter of, like, you talk it out and then you converse. Because the key thing when it comes to conversation is the root word, which is con, or the prefix con, which is with. You are versing with this person. It's not they're talking at you, you're talking at them, you're talking with each other.
Instagram, I saw, my sister actually sent it to me. Obama, my forever president, out.
Yeah.
Him out on the campaign trails, of course, supporting. So, but when he went to hug everybody, he did that same thing. He approached certain hues of people with that dap and that hug and everything, and other hues of people with that formal handshake. You have to approach people where they are.
That's right.
It's not fake. It's not phony. It's you yielding to where they're comfortable.
Yep.
With you approaching them. I had an extremely shy guest. Shy. Like, she ran from me. She didn't want to do this show. Extremely shy. But when I turned, when we started doing the episode and I, started really talking about the things that she actually does, she was elated by the time I pulled her on the platform and saw her face, everyone could see her. I gave her the introduction after I said different things that are in her niche, in her field of expertise, in her mastery.
Yeah.
Talked about those things. She was like, oh my good, you had me on the edge of my seat. Like, I couldn't believe she was so ready to just have that conversation because I made it a comfortable, safe space for us to go back and forth about it. Because honestly, I didn't know anything about what she did. And I was willing to say, you're here to explain this to me. This is what I know. This is what I heard in the news.
Yeah.
I know this much, and we're about to get into it. Be willing to be vulnerable to say you don't know. And then the great thing was she didn't talk down to me. And I said, hold on, and you're going to have to simplify this. I need you to make this
Yeah.
real simple for me. And we had an amazing conversation. An amazing conversation. So how do you, when you're, like we're working together right now.
Yeah.
We don't know what, I don't know what you're going to say. You don't know what I'm, now we have listen, people, we have a Etch-a-Sketch outline. Like if you shake the screen, that joint's going to go away.
Right.
Just get outline of what we do. But that's
Right.
because, you know, we have rapport with each other and we can flow, we can talk forever. So
Yeah.
it makes it very easy. You know, so how do what kind of tag team tactics would you say people should have when they're being interviewed and as a host interviewing someone?
That's a good question. So, as a host, when you're tag teaming somebody, a
And by
lot of
tag
times,
teaming with somebody, I mean, like I'm the guest and you're the host. So it's the two of us trying to hold a conversation and allowing one person to complete their thought and I complete my thought, or even that interjection that he showed. So yeah. So I just didn't want them to be like, tag team, what you mean? So there you
right?
go.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a host, a good amount of it is making sure that, because I mean, when you think about a tag team, think about it wrestling. When you're wrestling somebody, it's like you could be sitting there whooping them, and it's like, all right, you come on and get some of this action. You know, it's once again, it's that recognition that yes, you are either getting all the action or you're getting pummeled. You know what I'm saying? It's that recognition that, hey, this is either something good, a great point that I want you to come in on, or I'm struggling to keep this thing going. I need you to come in and be a part of this. So it's a matter of recognizing whatever the moment calls for. It goes to the whole thing of going with the flow. Like if so, there'll be certain times like I'll have people on my podcast. I use myself as an example. So I'll have people on my podcast, and there will be moments where I'm making a specific point, and I want them to chime in on that point. So it might be a question that's not even down on the paper or whatever, or something I didn't even plan. But it's like, okay, now that I'm here at this point, I want to know what you think. So that's one tactic of tag teaming somebody to come into the conversation and feed off of whatever it is that you're asking. Because a lot of times when you think about a tag team, it's kind of a random act. Like you don't plan when you tag team somebody in. It just happens in that moment. Like, you know what? You need to be in on this. So it's really, when it comes down, the biggest tactic that I would say when it comes down to tag teaming somebody, whether you're the host or whether you're the guest, is recognition of the moment. What is the moment saying? If you're not cognizant of the fact that this other person needs to come in, then that means you're going back to talking. But if you are cognizant of the fact that it's like you are making a great point and you want this person to come in, or you're struggling to make a point and you need that other person to bolster the point that you're trying to make, it's all about recognition.
For me, that would be having your time in the spotlight. It's like, okay, I'm in the spotlight. I'm on the mic. Okay, you're in the spotlight. You're on the mic. Me, you. Like you said, it's a certain flow, sway, dance to it. There definitely is. I hope that people really understand that if you use the tool of talking to get the information that you need to have that great conversation, it could take you to the next level. It really does. It like I said, it's beyond the camera, it's beyond the lights, it's beyond the mic. It's what is the conversation yielding, or is it even a conversation, or is somebody just going on and on to the break of dawn? Huh? You can hear me? Sorry, I have flashback songs in my mind from time to time. Don't make me rhyme. Wait a minute.
Yeah, you just did.
So yeah, I think that this is something like this. These are the types of topics that we want to bring to you here on I Am a Podcast Pro.
Yes.
Why? Because
Yes,
you're not perfect, but you're walking in your purpose.
That's right. That's right.
That R, that's that resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And that O, outstanding. Why? Because you're going to stand out as the unique you that you are. I am Marion.
And I am Joe.
Hey. And we are what? Podcast pros.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
All right.
We own it.
Yes.
And
yes.
y'all can too. Y'all have already. If you're watching this right now, you have already owned the fact that you're a podcast pro.
Whether a host or a guest or a guest speaker or even a solo host where you're there speaking. Listen, we're really going to get into that. That like has its own lane. We're going to get into that. But that's why we're here, to make sure that everybody that's starting these podcasts feels comfortable speaking, engaging, and sharing the impact that they have through their podcast. And trust, there are so many different kinds. Oh my goodness. All right. All right. Until next time, we will be back with that, next Wednesday?
That's right.
9 p.m.
9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes. Live.
Yes.
YouTube, Instagram. Go ahead, give them those handles.
Yes. So Instagram and YouTube, it is at I Am a Podcast Pro. Once again, that is I Am a Podcast Pro. All one word on YouTube and Instagram. So definitely make sure that y'all subscribe to the YouTube channel, like, comment, share with your friends and everything, especially those who may be interested in bettering their podcasting skills, whether they're a host or a guest.
Yeah, speaking in front of people is actually the root of this podcast. It's helping people to be able to speak, to come off, being able to express their heart so that other people can receive what they have. So thank you for joining us. We will see you next time.
Peace.